Hello guys, it's Chris. From extremely unique animals to a real-life Tarzan, here are 8 of the strangest and mysterious things ever found in the jungle. Number 8. The Amazon Rings. In one of the most famous jungles in the world, the Amazon, there are quite a few mysteries found within its borders. But easily one of the biggest mysteries is about its rings. To be clear, this isn't found within the trees of the jungle, but in certain open areas of the land. When you go there, you'll see there are massive ditches that have been dug into the earth, and their scope is impressive. Yet no one knows why they're there or what their purpose is. What's more, there have been structures like these found in places in forests both in Bolivia and Brazil. The first question you're likely asking is, well, who made these? The answer is nobody knows. The consensus is that the early tribes that lived in the Amazon jungle made these, but there's no way to confirm that. What's more, the rings are said to predate the entire Amazon rainforest. There's also no way of knowing their exact purpose, and that's fueled much speculation, from simple things like being a burial site or being used in agriculture to being like the Nazca lines. You know, because aliens. Just kidding. The other big question is how they were able to dig these ditches. The obvious answer is tools, but the ditches don't show signs of being worked on by tools. Speculation is that because the now confirmed older date of the area, that it was easy to carve these rings and lines into the ground. But that's all speculation. Number 7. Potoo. There are many birds in the Amazon rainforest, but one you will likely never see despite it possibly being right in front of you is the Potoo bird. And why will you not see them? Well, it's because the Potoo bird has an extremely effective camouflage. They'll find a tree stump or branch and then stand upon it. Once they're comfortable, they won't move at all. They look practically dead, even though they technically have an eye open. And they'll remain in that spot and position until night comes and they can move to go and eat insects. And they don't mind doing this as they're very nocturnal birds, and their coloring allows them to perfectly blend in with branches when picked carefully. A unique feature of the bird aside from its camouflage is that it only lays one egg, and it usually does so on the branch that it was camouflaging itself in. This makes it different because most birds prefer nests. What's more, both the male and female take turns incubating the egg to make sure it grows to what it needs to be. It was said that once the Potoo had a much larger reach in the world, but now it's confined mostly to Mexico, Argentina, and a few other countries in tropical areas. Number 6. Sigiriya. Located within Sri Lanka, Sigiriya is a naturally forming rock structure that has risen out of the jungle and stands 660 feet tall. This alone wouldn't make it strange, but when you get closer to the rock, you'll notice that it has been carved into. Specifically, it's been turned into a fortress, complete with stone steps, frescoes, and even a part of a royal palace. It's believed that King Kasyapa once found the rock and decided to turn it into his own personal palace, as well as make it the new capital of his nation. He was so adamant about making it his own palace that he even made a lion's head gateway, which is where the name of the place is actually derived from. That being said, the place that Sigiriya is on has been inhabited by many people for quite some time, including by kings before Kasyapa. If you were to go and look around the structure, you would find loads of paintings. At one time, the paintings were suggested to have been hundreds of feet long and a couple dozen feet high. However, over time, the paintings degraded, and now many are lost to time. Sigiriya has become one of Sri Lanka's most popular tourist attractions, given its place in the land's history. Number 5. The Boiling River. The idea of a river being warm is not unheard of depending on the region the water's in, but the notion of an entire river being so hot that it can boil was thought to be a myth or legend. That is, until Andreas Russo from National Geographic went on a journey to find it himself. And guess what? He found it. Despite everyone laughing at him, it's real. And it's called Mayantu Yaku, and it's been known to the native people for quite some time, actually. The temperature of the water is a scorching 200 degrees Fahrenheit, and that proves that you would probably die if you tried to go into it. The real interesting thing here is that it isn't a small river. It's 82 feet wide and can reach down 16 to 20 feet in places. To maintain the temperature in that big a body of water is astounding. In fact, there's no definitive explanation as to how this happens. The best guess is that this part of the river is somehow attached to a geothermal vent, which exudes a lot of heat and thus makes it boil to such a degree. There is also a thought that the boiling water comes from somewhere else and is pooled into a river. But neither has been proven, and the geothermal vent theory has been questioned due to the fact that the nearest volcano is 400 miles away from the river. Because of how hot the water is, the other parts of the land connected to the river are affected as well, such as the mud created by the river, which is too hot to walk on. Rousseau would later start a foundation to ensure the river itself wasn't harmed by the incoming deforestation of the Amazon. Number 4. MARICOXI. It seems that various parts of the world have their own version of the Bigfoot legend, and in the jungles of South America, it would be the MARICOXI. Like most Bigfoot stories, this is about a large, hairy creature that roamed the jungles. But according to the man who found them, British explorer Colonel Percival H. Fawcett, they were more than just hairy apes. They were living in villages together, and even knew how to use bow and arrows, which would indeed make them more advanced than typical Bigfoot in the Northern Hemisphere. Fawcett would go on to further explain his encounter with them in the book Lost Trails, Lost Cities, and describe them as very hostile towards humans for one reason or another. But when the men in Fawcett's party fired off their guns, everything seemed to get better as the MARICOXI ran away. As for their name, they were called the MARICOXI because they lived close to a tribe known as the Maxubi. Weirdly enough, in 1925, 11 years after his initial sighting of the MARICOXI, Fawcett disappeared during another exploration of the jungle. What do you think? Leave me a note in the comments. Number 3. The Sentinelese people. They say that the world as it is now is fully known, and yet many were surprised when the Sentinelese people were found in the jungles of North Sentinel Island, which resides in the Indian Ocean. This tribe of people is actually rather big, and they're known to be the most reclusive tribe in the history of the world, or at the very least the modern world. Every attempt to contact the Sentinelese people has met with violence, including an incident as recent as 2018, where a man was killed after visiting the island, and others have been killed over the years for just being close to the island. The reason for this is believed to be that the Sentinelese people understood that foreigners on their island likely meant death, which is what happened to other tribes on similar islands near them. There's a real mystery with this tribe that's a bit unknown to this day. First off, despite being only 500 strong at best guess, they're incredibly capable. They've survived on that island for a very long time. Some even guess up to 60,000 years. They're in good health, know how to craft tools, and can apparently even work metal in their own way. But what scratches people's heads is that the 2004 tsunami that devastated that part of the world apparently didn't affect the Sentinelese. Which is crazy because North Sentinel Island was directly in the path of the tsunami. Yet they lived, which we found out after a helicopter was sent in to check on the tribe, and 2 tribesmen promptly made it go away. It's unlikely that contact with these people will ever happen, barring a severe change in their beliefs in regards to outsiders. Number 2. Corpse flower. Despite its name, the corpse flower is not a flower that's dying, and actually, it's not a singular flower either. Rather, it's a combination of thousands of male and female flowers that grow together to form this massive structure. It's actually one of the largest flower structures in the world today, as well as one of the rarest in the world. The name that the flower was given is due to its smell. The corpse flower emits an odor that actually does smell like rotting flesh, but only when it's in bloom. Tim Pollock, outdoor florist in the Chicago Botanic Gardens, noted the following. The smell, color, and even temperature of corpse flowers are meant to attract pollinators to help ensure the continuation of the species. Such insects who like this smell include dung beetles and flesh flies who truly do like the smell of rotting flesh, and the plant grew to recognize that. But it also goes even deeper to ensure that the insects come. Corpse flowers are able to warm up to 98 degrees Fahrenheit, that's 36.7 Celsius, to further fool the insects, Pollock added. The insects think the flower may be food. They fly inside, realize there's nothing to eat, and fly off with pollen on their legs. This process ensures the ongoing pollination of the species. Once the flower has bloomed and pollination is complete, the flower collapses. The largest corpse flower ever recorded was over 10 feet, though it's said it could be as tall as 15 feet. The leaves on the tree can be 3 feet long. That being said, it can take up to 7 years for them to bloom, and some don't bloom for decades. Number 1. Tarzan. Jungles are an easy place to get lost in. But for some people, they believe that the jungles are a safer place to live than the cities of the modern world. Such was the case for Ho Van Tang, who fled the jungles of Vietnam during the war that ravaged the country. His home was bombed one night, and it killed his wife and 2 of his sons. He took his youngest son, Ho Van Lang, into the forest to protect him, and the two spent the next 40 years living off the jungle, and they did so very well. They lived in a treehouse to protect themselves from predators. They had tools and weapons to help them hunt and get what they needed, and they even had a small plantation where they grew sugarcane. The two were eventually found by Van Tang's youngest son, who had also survived the attack, but he couldn't get them to come back. Later on, the father and son, who some say was like the mythical Tarzan given his look and build, were brought to a nearby village some 25 miles away. Van Tang needed medical attention and was taken to a hospital. Despite this, Van Tang tried to escape the hospital and get back to the jungle. Thanks for watching. What did you think of these strange things found in the jungle? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.